In 2002, US soldiers in Afghanistan confronted something out of legend, a 12-foot or 3.6-meter red-haired giant with double rows of teeth and a stench like Bigfoot, flown out under heavy secrecy. Some say it was a remnant of the Nephilim. This is the story of the Kandahar giant. Let's get into it. The local Afghan population have shared stories of giants living in caves stretching back centuries. Ancient oral traditions describe towering red-haired humanoids, cannibalistic and deadly, with piercing eyes that glow faintly in the dark, massive hands tipped with claw-like nails, and teeth capable of crushing bone. Some tales speak of entire clans of giants living in complex cave networks, guarding treasure or sacred sites, just like the Bigfoots of North and South America guarding inner earth entrances. Elders recount encounters passed down through generations, people and livestock disappearing mysteriously, distant and thundering cries and roars with no discernible source. Certain tribes believe these giants are remnant survivors or descendants of the Nephilim, ancient beings of immense power mentioned in biblical texts, while others see them as both feared predators and enigmatic guardians of the land. In some areas, tribes periodically dye their hair and even their goats red as offerings meant to appease the giants. Over time, these tales became woven into Afghan folklore, cautiously whispered to outsiders, yet widely known among locals as truths not to be questioned. The story begins when American soldiers disappeared while searching for Taliban fighters in the mountains near Kandahar. They went radio silent, leaving no trace behind. The military responded quickly, dispatching a special operations team, the Army Green Berets, to locate the missing unit. These were some of the most highly trained men in the field, armed, ready, and alert. But what they found was unlike any battlefield they had ever seen before. As the Green Berets ascended a rocky goat path, they began to see signs of destruction. A shredded piece of communications gear, a rifle snapped in half, and only scattered remnants of bones and torn scraps of military uniforms remained. This was not the work of the Taliban. The team pressed on towards a rocky platform where the signs of violence seemed to converge. From this vantage, several cave openings encircled the area. Anyone stepping onto the platform would have no choice but to move towards one of the caves, each entrance looming like a trap waiting to be entered. The men strained their eyes to see into the black maw of the caves. One of them thought he saw a flicker of movement, and then a wooden spear whistled past his head, burying itself in the soldier behind him. Before anyone could react, the giant lunged, snatching back the spear, and lifted the soldier up in the air like a rag doll as his life drained away. The thing before them was impossible. A humanoid figure 12 to 15 feet or 3.6 to 5.6 meters tall, pale skin stretched over rippling muscle, 6 fingers on each hand, wild red hair, and a tangled beard framing a mouth that opened to reveal double rows of glistening razor-sharp teeth. Although the soldiers were trained to aim high, higher than center mass, their training meant nothing in the face of this monster. The stench, the speed, the sheer brute strength of the giant froze them in place for a heartbeat too long. Then instinct took over. A storm of M4s, 308s, and Barrett 50 bullets ripped into its head and torso. Automatic fires thundered for nearly half a minute before the giant staggered, collapsed, and lay still. The soldiers were shaken, but now had new orders. They secured the massive body that was far too heavy for standard evacuation. They slung the giant under a Chinook in a massive cargo net, reeking of rot and an overpowering musky stench. This was not decomposition, as it was a fresh kill. It was just the giant's natural odor, which reminds me of reports of Bigfoot encounters, pungent and musky. Could they be from the same bloodline, or perhaps even related to the Yeti of the Himalayas, often thought to be distant cousins of the North American Bigfoot? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's get back to the story. Moving this mountain cave giant was no easy task. He was enormous and weighed over 1,100 pounds or 500 kg. After the battlefield operation, the soldiers had to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, and the giant's body was flown to a secure airfield in Afghanistan, then transferred into a C-17 Globemaster, the same type used to carry tanks and helicopters. It flew directly to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. Wright-Patterson has long been shrouded in secrecy, rumored not only to house recovered alien craft, as whistleblower Dr. Stephen Greer has testified, but also to store the remains of freshly killed giants like the Kandahar giant under strict military control. The first known report of the Kandahar giant came from the pilot of the Chinook helicopter in 2006.
It was in the middle of the day. I remember coming into a base in Afghanistan called Bagram. We landed and basically was told to taxi to the very end of the tarmac. We're very, of course, curious to see what it was. If somebody hadn't taken a shower in like 10 years, type of a musky stink is all I can tell you. And it was basically a dead guy. And this guy was extremely large. This guy was laying in a fetal position on the pallet. So he filled the pallet. I know he was dead, but he was very pale, very white. They then grabbed a helicopter, and the helicopter brought him down where we picked him up. I did ask some questions later of, where it might have gone, and as the grapevine goes, it was probably taken back to the United States, and the words I heard were right, Pat.
But the full story wasn't revealed until 2022, 20 years after the original firefight. One of the soldiers who had confronted the giant came forward for a journalist-led debriefing with L.A. Marzulli. Here's a clip from that interview. The soldier breaks his silence 2 decades after the battle. Check it out.
In Afghanistan in 2002, and you were called into a very remote section because a patrol had basically gone missing.
Exactly. So we flew in. About 4 kilometers. We're hiking through the same area. And before we'd left, there was all kinds of what happened with an ambush. We'd call for maybe close air support, something. Okay. There was no calls made. So we're coming down a mountainside, and it was a nice path. There was a cave. We're coming around, and then I see bone matter. I'm not close enough to identify what kind of bones, but I did see something I knew was a piece of our communications equipment. And there was enough room in front of this cave, but it had a sheer drop off. But there was enough room that we actually got the man at least 12 to 15 feet. This is a monster. Red beard, then his hair was long past the shoulder. And Dan runs at him and starts shooting, which broke all of us. into the reality. It was
So
surreal.
now your training is kicking in.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
muscle memory, complete to a purest day. He's now got him on this pike. They went through it. He's still got him. And he's coming after him, but I remember we're all like, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face.
While freshly killed giants are said to be flown to Wright-Patterson, ancient remains tell a different story. Oversized skeletons reportedly unearthed in North American mounds on Catalina Island, in Nevada's Lovelock Cave, and even across the world are said to have been quietly collected and shipped to the Smithsonian Institution, where they vanish into archives, never again to be seen by the public. The legend of the Kandahar giant isn't just about one firefight in the mountains of Afghanistan. For centuries, locals have whispered of man-eating giants lurking in caves, cannibalistic and merciless, stalking those who wander too far in the high passes. Soldiers told to aim higher than a man's head, debriefings shrouded in secrecy. All of it points to something the world isn't supposed to know. Whether you believe the Kandahar giant was a myth, a wartime legend, or the remnant of a hidden bloodline of giants that still walks the earth, the secrecy surrounding it is the biggest clue of all. Because legends don't last thousands of years without fire behind the smoke. If you liked what you saw and learned and would like to see more similar content in the future, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps. Thanks a lot. And as always, I'm not saying this and every story I share is 100% true. I'm just telling a story, and you can dig deeper and believe what you want. Uncovering the truth, one conspiracy at a time. See you next time on the White Rabbit 4090.